Are you thinking about running your first steroid cycle? Here's the cycle I recommend to give you the best bang for your buck while keeping side effects to a minimum. Sup guys, before we go into dosages, compounds, and all of that, I am not a doctor, so don't listen to anything I say. And I'm going to assume you're an adult that can make your own informed decisions. And I think you should have 3 to 5 years of training under your belt too, just so you've milked 80% of your natural gains. And just made sure everything on the training and diet side of things is dialed in as close as they can be. Because if it's not, you could be in for a bad time. Gear will just magnify what you're already doing, both the good and the bad. So if you've never tracked your macros, never seen your abs, and your idea of intensity is doing bicep curls with 10 reps left in the tank, and then taking a 5-minute break to scroll Instagram, then you need to click off this video because you don't need steroids. You need proper training and discipline. So with that out of the way, let's talk about what I believe to be the safest and smartest stack that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, not only in terms of the muscle gains you'll make, but your gym performance and the manageability of the side effects. This stack is going to involve 2 compounds, testosterone and Danavar. Okay, so why these 2? Testosterone is the bioidentical male hormone. Your body already knows exactly what to do with it and how to metabolize it. And it also has 2 key metabolites, being estrogen and DHT. Anavar is one of the more beginner-friendly oral compounds. It doesn't aromatize, so you don't need to worry about estrogen and issues related to that. It's also one of the few compounds that you can actually feel working almost immediately if you take it sublingual pre-workout. But how much of these should you take and why? For the testosterone, I'd recommend 300 milligrams. I would say that 300 milligrams will give you 70% of the results that 500 milligrams will, at almost half the intake. And that's important because initially there's diminishing returns until you grow and you build more muscle. And more muscle means more androgen receptors to put more gear to use. In terms of side effects, it's also going to be better for a first timer. For some guys, the choice between 300 milligrams and 500 milligrams could be the difference between breaking out in acne and not. It'll also give you a good idea of your aromatization rates. Most guys will need some estrogen management on 300 milligrams, but it just won't be as extreme as it would be with 500 milligrams. So 300 milligrams is going to give you some very, very solid gains if it's your first cycle. And it also leaves a lot of room for you to bump things up in future once you know how you react. Keep in mind too, that as you grow, you'll want to slowly bump things up cycle after cycle. And the trouble is, if you jump in with like a gram a test, it's like, where do you go from there next time? So start low and build up. As for pinning, I would recommend 29 gauge insulin pins. Can't even feel them. As for frequency, as often as you can is ideal, but it needs to be at least twice a week, and that's with the longer esters. I'd recommend beginners use medial delts and ventroglutes to pin. There's tons of videos on YouTube. Literally 3 inches above my head, if you're on PC, is a search bar. Just put in how to inject testosterone delts or how to inject testosterone ventroglutes. You'll find everything you need. For the Anavar, 25 milligrams a day if it's good Anavar. My last video goes into why, and if you've not seen it, check it out. Okay, so how long should the cycle be? 16 weeks is what I think is the ideal duration. Some guys will say 12 weeks, but consider that longer esters take about 4 weeks to even reach steady state. So the game really starts 4 weeks in. Before that, there's a lot of sitting around, twiddling your thumbs, just waiting for things to happen. And if you take that into consideration, you basically are doing a 12-week cycle. It's just you're starting from the point where things start to happen. The cycle structure itself, which you'll see later on, would be 16 weeks of 300 milligrams of testosterone a week. And then on week 11 to 16, so the last 6 weeks, that's when the Anavar would come in at 25 milligrams a day. The reason for this is because around the week 10 to 12 mark on a steady dose is where things start to level out and plateau a bit. Don't get me wrong, you'll still make great gains, if you're doing everything else right in terms of training and diet, but you're not making those rapid gains anymore that you were towards the beginning of the cycle. So with the Anavar coming in at week 11, you can think of it as a second wind that's just going to kick things into higher gear so you can squeeze out a bit more progress before the cycle ends. It's also going to give you some sick workouts if you go the oral administration route. Okay, blood work. Ideally, you want a full panel just so you have a baseline which can serve as a reference point. So you can check health markers like cholesterol, liver, kidneys. You also want a pre-cycle hormonal panel. This is particularly important if your plan is to PCT, so you can gauge if you've recovered or not with your post-cycle blood work. You also want another hormone panel about 6 weeks in, just so in future you can know that, okay, this many milligrams of testosterone gave me this total testosterone and this estrogen conversion. Finally, you want to do post-cycle blood work just to see where things are sitting at. If you're doing a PCT, I would wait 2 to 3 weeks after your last dose of PCT. And that's to check, okay, are my hormones actually recovering? But if you're planning on cruising instead, do it at the very end of the cycle, just so you can see what's been impacted, and that'll give you an idea of how much time you need to take off before you blast again. All right, on cycle support. You're going to need estrogen management, most likely, either Arimidex or Aromasin, and you want to use it reactively if and when you start seeing high estrogen symptoms. Some guys will just start popping Arimidex because they think they need it and they actually don't. And next thing they know, they've crashed the estrogen and they feel like absolute shit. So don't make that mistake. I went over how to find your AI dose in another video. I think it's called Estrogen Management on Cycle and TRT. I'll put it on the screen, but definitely check that one out. It will tell you all you need to know. Cialis is a great addition to a cycle as well. I've got videos on that you can check out that go into more detail, but I'll keep it short and sweet for the sake of this one. It'll help improve the health of your blood vessels. It does this by increasing nitric oxide levels and lowering blood pressure. It also has some mild AI effects. Omega-3 fish oil is going to help keep your HDL up, which is your good cholesterol, and help offset some of the cholesterol damage. If you get into the habit of taking one with every meal and you're eating 4 or 5 times a day, that's going to be enough. I'd also suggest adding citrus bergamot and NAC when the Anavar comes in at week 11. Citrus bergamot will help lower LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, which Anavar is notorious for raising, and the NAC will add a bit of liver protection. NAC is going to boost glutathione levels, which you can really think of as your body's master antioxidant. While Anavar is a relatively mild compound, it's still an oral steroid, and at the end of the day, if you stay on it long enough, it can impact your liver enzymes. Okay, I just want to talk about some habits that you should add in as well. If you're not already doing it, get into the habit of doing some cardio. For some guys, it could be the difference between normal blood pressure and high blood pressure. So it's definitely worth doing. It doesn't need to be crazy amounts. 15 minutes, 5 days a week. Zone 2, if you're going to the gym anyway, there's no excuse. Jump on the Stairmaster, speed 6, whack a podcast on and just crack on with it. It's going to do wonders for keeping up your cardiovascular health. Next up is hydration. Aim towards 5 litres of water a day. If you're not used to it, that can sound like a lot, but something that works for me is adding a little bit of Himalayan salt to the water. This actually does 2 things. It adds minerals and it actually makes me thirstier. So as a result, I drink more water. But why is hydration more important on steroids? Being well hydrated increases your blood plasma volume, which temporarily lowers your hematocrit by diluting your red blood cells. Since androgens, like testosterone, generally increase red blood cell production, being well hydrated can help offset some of the potential cardiovascular damage. Okay, calories. A slight surplus, 200 a day. Protein at 1 gram per pound of body weight. And assuming you're starting from an already lean starting point, which you certainly should be, it's going to be great and you'll just make lean gains. I've laid out the whole cycle so you can see it in the grand scheme of things, along with all the compounds, supplements and habits you need. So pause the video if you want to check it out in more detail. Overall, I think this is a great cycle for beginners that's going to add a ton of lean mass if your training and diet are dialed in. And I would expect most guys will be able to add about 15 pounds of lean mass and really improve the lifts. I ran a similar cycle for my first one in which I documented the results. So check that one out if you've not seen it, because it should give you a good idea of the type of gains you can expect. If you want me to personally coach you and give you a more tailored protocol based on your own situation, your own goals and circumstances, check out the services on my blog. Aside from that, Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helps. Like the video, subscribe for more of this content. Enhancedplayer.com's the blog, and we're out.